Welcome to the Ultimate Insurance Agency Podcast, Planet of the Agents. Planet of the Agents. Where we give you the real
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Planet of the Agents. I am your host, Dave Baker. As always, if you'd like to connect with me, you can simply go to planetoftheagents.com, and you are very welcome to send me a message. Let me know what you'd like me to discuss on the show, or share any other insights with me. I always appreciate that. No matter where you're listening, whether it's on YouTube or on a podcast platform, please make sure to subscribe to the show. And I also appreciate your comments. It does help the show, and I enjoy helping people and sharing my insights after 20 years in the insurance industry. So if you would like to get more insights, you can also subscribe to the newsletter, which you can find on planetoftheagents.com. Now, in today's episode, let's jump right in. I want to talk about something called customer loyalty. Now, I'm going to discuss this in a comparison because I really think that a key takeaway you're going to have from this episode of the show is the difference in customer loyalty in commercial insurance versus personal lines insurance. Now, depending on what generation you're from, you might not actually know what customer loyalty is. You see, kids, when we were younger, people were loyal to the professional that they worked with in their life, whether it was a dentist, an insurance agent, a travel agent, whether it was another professional service provider that they had. Kind of like the way people are loyal to a sports team, whether they actually play on the team or interact with the team at all. Can you imagine if your customers were as loyal to you as some people are to a team that might be located in another state, playing a sport that people can't even play? Imagine that level of loyalty. Gosh, what would it be like if they wore your t-shirts around and your hats, assuming that you have those? You might even make them one day. Who knows? Can you imagine a world where clients didn't just leave you? Now, I know some of you are going to say, I don't have that experience, Dave. I don't know what you're talking about. My customers are super loyal. Well, generally speaking, from the statistics that I have seen, people are nowhere near as loyal as they were in the past when it comes to their insurance provider. Or even more importantly, to their insurance agent or agency. Now, I understand there are going to be situations where people are going to say that they did not want to work with a certain insurance agent anymore. This makes sense. This can happen. There are certain things that arise. There are certain situations. There are also many misunderstandings. I've actually heard customers say they were upset with how a claim was handled by an insurance company when the agent himself had actually nothing to do with the claim, and the person said that the agent did get them all of the coverages, but he didn't like the way that the carrier handled the claim. And I thought to myself, your response is to leave your insurance agent, even though you literally just told me he did nothing wrong? Unfortunately, that was something that I heard. Now, what I want to talk about specifically in today's episode is continuing with my theme of how I do still think that commercial insurance, meaning commercial lines like general liability, professional liability, inland marine, all the different lines that are available are really the future for insurance agents. Again, while I do understand some of you have built up empires of auto insurance and home insurance and personal lines, it's one thing if you're close to retirement or selling your book of business. But for those of us who have a future still working in the industry, still working as insurance agents or even wholesalers or other participants who are involved in the sales process or who depend on the clients and will continue to do that in the future, I think that the future really does lie in commercial insurance. So let's talk about client loyalty and client retention. Now, while I have read numerous statistics, I'm going to preface what I say in this episode by saying that I'm mostly going to speak from personal experience and what many other agents have told me. I do attend various agent events, so I interact with agents from different states, different locations. Primarily, they are on the West. That is not limited to just the West Coast, but it does include Arizona, Idaho, and other states that are adjacent. Obviously, Nevada is one where I am active. So maybe we should just start with a question. Are personal lines clients or are commercial insurance clients more loyal, meaning more likely to stay with you for the long term? whether they have a situation, whether it's a price factor, the rates are obviously shifting in the market in many locations, or whether it's a different experience. Now, for me, from what I've seen, along with statistics I've read, but let's focus on what I've seen, what I've experienced, and what I've been told by countless agents. It seems quite clear that personal lines insurance has dramatically less loyalty as things have evolved. For example, obviously, you are competing with direct writers who now run countless advertisements on the internet, on the radio. Yes, the radio still exists for those of you who just use apps. And of course, on the internet. I personally get bombarded with advertisements from various carriers and people trying to sell me insurance. Now, logically, auto insurance is one of the easier ones to find online, and that may be the reason people switch and leave you more frequently. You're competing with not only the direct writers, meaning the carriers that go direct to the consumer, but you're also competing with some captive companies that will run advertisements and then hand it off to one of their captive agents. And you are competing with insurtech companies that offer an online product or companies that simply suggest that they offer an online product. Some of those are actually agencies. There are apps that you download. There are websites you go to that run comparisons. They have APIs, meaning they have connections into an insurance company to return a rate or pull the rate from the insurance company and then display the rate on the webpage. While you are sitting there still trying to collect data over the phone, maybe by text message or email if you're a little more modern. Hopefully you all have some sort of web form people can use. But while you're doing that, trying to manually input data, possibly into a comparative rater, or possibly not. I know many people don't even use rating software. You have these online companies that have the ability to display the rates instantly, and the ease of use is a factor for a lot of people. So you are competing against that. So think about this. Do you lose more auto insurance customers than any other type of customer? I notice that when people get frustrated, I'll hear them say they're going to go online and see what they can find. Now, there are some people who still actively call an agent and are willing to wait. And I think many people appreciate their patience. But in a world where I can go online at 9 in the morning and order something and have it delivered to my house in the same day, things have changed dramatically because people have a different expectation of how the world works. So let's think about this. What other types of insurance can you buy online? I have actually not seen a lot of homeowners insurance available regularly online, but I have seen some websites that purport to give you a price comparison. So I've actually gotten some quotes myself, and I did notice that when I clicked over to continue, they generally required me to speak with an agent. There are some people who are selling, or some carriers or companies or insurtech companies that are selling homeowners, renters, condo, and similar insurance products online. And some of them do work with agents as well. But I would think that to have success with them, you would have to have a reasonable online presence. Now, the other things like power sports insurance, meaning your watercraft, your motorcycles, and even something like personal umbrellas can be purchased online in many cases. So because it's so easy for someone to leave you, and we live in a modern world where people don't have a sense of loyalty, it's really changing the landscape. So what is the difference between personal lines and commercial insurance? Well, yes, you can purchase some commercial insurance online. You can buy general liability. I see errors and omissions insurance or professional liability. I see certain cyber insurance products that can be added on. I see packages. I see quite a few things. But what I've noticed is those tend to be the lower hanging fruit, as some people would call it. Those would be your BOP policies sometimes, your business owners policies. They would be for low hazard industries, the ones that you might sell for $350 to $500 premiums, which might not even keep your lights on anymore. But the bigger professional liability, the bigger general liability, the harder to place products, the ones that require a bit of underwriting, or surplus lines, which I know many of you don't like because of the paperwork, I understand. But I can say that those products, the ones where you have the higher premiums, the $2,500, the $5,000, the $100,000 premiums, those are generally not sold online. For example, let's say you have an office complex with $100 million worth of property, 55,000 square feet of parking lots and other things. You have multiple buildings, multiple exposures, monument signs, a need for inland marine, a need for even something like pollution liability because there could be a gas station in the shopping center. There's so many different things that make that a complex risk that people are just not going to be able to go online, fortunately. And I say fortunately because if everything becomes very easy, no matter how valuable you are, it will make it harder for you to do business. That's an unfortunate reality that even though many of you out there have incredible knowledge of insurance and risk, I've talked to people that are just so impressive with what they tell me. But if it's really easy for someone to go a different way, they might still do that. I generally like to discern uh, what I'm talking about and say something like, it does depend on where you're located, the nature of your customers, and things like that. Because I find, again, in small towns, things are a little bit different. Those who live in big cities, if you're dealing with insurance in Miami or Los Angeles or even Las Vegas now, Seattle, Portland, places that are just a little bit bigger, where you're going to have much more competition, you're going to have a different experience. So, those of you who are listening from small towns, well, you clearly have a different experience because you might literally know a lot of your customers, as in they walk in the door and you have a meeting with them, which I will tell you, I really enjoyed in the past. I thought it was great to be a part of the community and to know your customers. But think about this. As I've been talking about somewhat on the show on different episodes, I do think commercial lines are the future because there are certain rules, like with surplus lines, where you need to perhaps place it for the customer and get them to sign certain forms. You have other rules in play that can really benefit you. Additionally, people who have a significant business or don't understand the product are more likely to seek the help of a professional. That would make sense. That's a logical concept. As where auto insurance is something that people have been purchasing potentially since they were 16 years old, maybe 18 years old, maybe 21 years old. They've been doing it for many years. They're familiar perhaps with what it's like to be in a claim. They have a different grasp of it. But when you talk to someone about general liability risks or pollution liability risks or inland marine risks for their equipment or understanding that the policy they saw online excludes theft coverage, gosh, little things like that, those are the factors that come into play. That is why I think that people are more loyal. They'll go back to you again if they need to switch carriers or as their exposures increase, meaning perhaps they bought a general liability policy from you. Now they have some equipment they need to insure, or now they purchased a building, or now they're going to convert their building from owner occupied to tenant occupied and they need a lesser risk policy. All of these things, I think, are a reason that property and casualty insurance agents are more likely to have loyalty and to experience customers returning over and over in the commercial lines world. I'd really like to get your input on this. Even send me some emails on the website. I'm going to put a poll on the website on planetoftheagents.com, and I'm going to see what people think because mostly what I've heard is that commercial clients remain more loyal. And this is one reason I don't focus on personal lines so much anymore. It is something I did in my career, but I found that the commercial market appears to be much more desirable for me right now. Additionally, if you're in a niche market, that can really help as well, especially if you're the go-to agency for XYZ product. What if you were the go-to agency for, let's say, pencil manufacturing? Okay, guess what? You and they get referred by other people, you will probably have a more loyal client base. Why do I talk about this? Because most of us were building this business for residuals, to build a book of business. There are a lot of reasons we want loyal customers. We want people to stay on the books forever. And if you are working in a market where you don't have that opportunity, where people are not going to stay with you because they have a million other options, well, that is probably not the best way to build a future. You know, just talking about this and people and all their options today makes me want to talk about people's personal lives and the social market out there and the scene, as they call it, if you're out there. For those of you who are experiencing that, you probably know what I'm talking about. And you're probably seeking a person who's loyal, right? These are things that actually intertwine. It's very interesting. I'll leave you with this little thought. I often think that the way some people get business or get leads is the same way they find a significant other. Think about that for a second. Think about how you get business and how you get leads. Obviously, you've got the online option, you've got in-person meetings, chance encounters, things like that. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting how things can all tie together? So thank you for joining me on this episode of Planet of the Agents. Let me know your thoughts. Are you going to focus more on commercial lines in the future? Are you focused on personal lines insurance? Are you at a point you don't care anymore? Not that you don't care about the customers, just that you don't care about acquiring new customers and developing something that's going to be functioning or have renewals in 20 years. All right. Once again, you can reach me by going to please sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get an email with access instructions for the agency resources section. And from there, I will leave you. And I hope you all are here in the next episode. Make sure to give me a little thumbs up. Click the heart button or the like button or the plus button. Have your downloads activated on your podcast apps. And make sure your notifications are on for my episodes. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Planet of the Agents. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And head over to our website at planetoftheagents.com to sign up for our newsletter and get even more information on how to grow your insurance agency.